Welcome to It's Good to Be Smart. I'm your host, Dr. Dave Mulder. I love to learn new things, and I hope you do too, because it's good to be smart. Today, we're diving into one of the most important and useful tools in all of science, the periodic table of the elements. If you've ever seen that big grid with tiny letters and numbers hanging up in your science classroom, you might have wondered, what's the deal with that thing? Why do scientists love it so much? And why does it look so organized? Well, stick with me for the next few minutes and we'll explore the answers together. First things first, what exactly is the periodic table? In short, the periodic table is a chart that organizes all known elements, the basic building blocks of everything in the universe. Remember that each element is made up of tiny particles called atoms, and every atom has three main parts: protons, neutrons, and electrons. The periodic table helps us understand how these atoms behave, how they combine, and how they shape the world around us. But how does it do all of that? Let's find out. To uncover the secrets of the periodic table, we need to travel back in time to the mid-1800s. At this time, scientists knew about some of the elements, like gold and silver and oxygen and hydrogen, but they didn't have a good system for organizing them. Enter Dmitri Mendeleev, a brilliant Russian chemist. Mendeleev loved patterns and puzzles. He began writing down the properties of each known element on cards, kind of like a deck of science playing cards. Mendeleev started sorting out the elements based on their properties, such as how they reacted with other elements and their atomic masses. And as he laid out the cards, he noticed something amazing. When he arranged the elements in a certain order, patterns began to emerge. Certain elements had similar properties that repeated in a predictable way. It was like playing a game where the rules revealed themselves. But here's the truly incredible part. As he laid out the cards according to their properties, Mendeleev realized that there were gaps in his arrangement. Instead of thinking, "Oh, I must have made a mistake," he was confident in the work he had done. Instead, seeing what seemed like empty spaces in the patterns he'd discovered, Mendeleev predicted that these gaps were for elements that hadn't been discovered yet. And guess what? He was right! Over time, scientists found elements like gallium and germanium that fit perfectly into the spaces Mendeleev had left open. Isn't that interesting? It's a good reminder for us all that there are still things out there for us to discover. Now let's fast forward to the modern periodic table. It's arranged a little differently than Mendeleev's original version, but the basic idea is the same. It's all about patterns. Today we organize the elements by their atomic number, which is the number of protons in the nucleus of each atom. For example, hydrogen has 1 proton, so its atomic number is 1. Helium has 2 protons, so its atomic number is 2. Lithium has 3 protons, so its atomic number is 3. And the table goes on from there. Iron atoms have 26 protons, so it's number 26 in the table. Silver atoms have 47 protons, and it's located at number 47 in the table. Lead is number 82 in the table, so, you guessed it, 82 protons. That's how the pattern works for listing out the elements. But the periodic table isn't just a boring list, it's a masterpiece of design. The elements are arranged in rows called periods and columns called groups. The groups are super important because the elements in each group share similar properties. Why? It all comes down to electrons. Specifically, the electrons in the outermost shell of an atom. Atoms want to be stable, and they do this by filling their outermost electron shells. Elements in the same group have the same number of electrons in their outer shell, which is why they behave in similar ways. For example, the elements in group 1, like sodium and potassium, have just 1 electron in their outer shells. This makes them super reactive. On the other hand, the elements in group 18, like helium and neon, have full outer shells. These elements are called the noble gases, and they're so stable they hardly react with anything at all. That's the big idea behind the way atoms in different columns of the table react. The number of electrons in the outermost shell of the atom determines that element's reactivity, and why it's located in a particular group. Take oxygen in group 16. Like all the elements in group 16, oxygen has 2 empty spaces in its outer electron shell, and it's always on the lookout for 2 more electrons to fill it up. That's why oxygen bonds so easily with hydrogen to form water. Or consider chlorine in group 17, which has just 1 empty space in its outer electron shell. It only needs 1 more to fill up its shell, so that makes chlorine incredibly reactive, just like all the rest of the elements in group 17. So the key thing to keep in mind about the periodic table is this: the elements in any given column have lots of similarities, and these similarities are because of the characteristics of the atoms that make up those elements. This was Mendeleev's insight, and one that continues to help us understand how elements interact right up to today. Before we wrap up, here are a few cool facts about the periodic table that might surprise you. Did you know that over 75% of the elements in the periodic table are metals? That's right. Metals dominate the table. Most elements are either gases or solids at room temperature, but there are two oddballs that typically exist as liquids in their elemental form: mercury and bromine. The heaviest naturally occurring element is uranium, with an atomic number of 92. But scientists have created even heavier elements in laboratories, like oganesson, with an atomic number of 118. And here's a fun one. Many element names honor the scientists or places involved in their discovery, especially the human-created elements toward the bottom of the periodic table. This has led to some fierce debates. For example, seaborgium, element number 106, is named after the Nobel Prize-winning American chemist Glenn T. Seaborg. But naming this element was part of a heated rivalry between American and Russian scientists who both claimed that they'd been the first to create element number 106. The International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry is the group who officially names elements, and in the end, they settled this dispute. I'd like to think that Mendeleev, the namesake of element number 101, Mendelevium, would approve this decision. So there you have it, the periodic table, a scientific treasure map that helps us understand the building blocks of the universe. Next time you see it hanging on a classroom wall, take a moment to appreciate its genius. And remember, it all started with a curious scientist and a deck of element cards. Thanks for joining me for this episode. Nice work leveling up your brain power today. Remember, smart isn't something you are, it's something we become as we're learning. So keep listening, keep learning, and keep getting smarter every day. It's Good to Be Smart is created and produced by me, Dr. Dave Mulder, with the support of the National Science Foundation through a Robert Noyce educational grant. Subscribe to this feed so you'll never miss an episode, and check out our home on the web, goodtobesmart.com. And until next time, keep asking questions, stay curious, and keep learning, because it's good to be smart.